Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me today for our fourth episode of Quarantine Crafting for Adults. This is Courtney here to present today's craft. Today I'll demonstrate how to make cardboard wall art. This is another craft that is pretty customizable to your taste, so there are a lot of different things you can do to make it your own while you're working on it. Here are the supplies that you'll need for this craft. So you'll need a thicker piece of cardboard, thinner pieces of cardboard, paint, paint brushes, a hot glue gun, and scissors. For the cardboard, I cut a piece off of a package that had been delivered to my house for the thicker piece, and for the thinner pieces of cardboard, things like a cereal box will work well. These are the general procedures I followed to do this craft. So I started by cutting down my cardboard to a different size. I started out with a much bigger piece of cardboard and found that it was easier to cut down to a smaller size for me to work with. Once I did that, I painted my cardboard a base color that acted as my background. I've chosen blue for mine. It takes a few coats to get everything covered, and I found it easiest to use a sponge brush and put paint directly on the brush or on the cardboard before painting it on. Acrylic paint dries very, very quickly on cardboard, so keep this in mind while you're working. Next, once you've painted all your coats on your base piece of cardboard, you can get to work cutting shapes to adhere to your base cardboard. You can do whatever design you'd like, but I've chosen triangles of various sizes for mine. I found that it worked best for me to draw out my triangles on my piece of cardboard to act as a guide for cutting them out, and then I used the excess cardboard to cut additional triangles out. Once you've cut all the shapes out, you can begin to paint them. It works best to paint on the actual cardboard part because the paint sticks better. If you use a box that has some type of glossy or waxy covering on it, those don't take paint as well. You can then paint your cutouts various colors. They dry very quickly, and I did 2 to 3 coats of paint on each depending on how dark the color of paint was. Once everything is dry, you can arrange your cutouts in whatever pattern you'd like on your base piece of cardboard. Then use your hot glue gun to adhere them to your cardboard. And here is my final product. So these are just some tips that I learned while working on this craft that will hopefully be helpful to you. I initially started out with a big piece of cardboard as my base, but found this hard to work with, so I cut it down and found it much easier to work with a smaller piece. It took quite a bit of paint to cover my cardboard base completely. Using a sponge brush made it much easier to paint the entire area than a regular paintbrush did. Keep in mind that acrylic paint dries very quickly on cardboard and typically requires more than one coat of paint. When cutting shapes using your thin piece of cardboard, paint the side that is not glossy or waxy. Paint does not stay very well on those surfaces. And this is a bit of a messy craft. I got my hands all covered in paint while I was working, so make sure you cover your table with some type of tablecloth or covering so you don't get paint everywhere while you're working. And that's it for this week's episode of Quarantine Crafting for Adults. We hope you enjoy this project, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. for another episode.